who's actually going to get the most out of a 65-inch 4K interactive board, and who should walk away before they even unbox it? Is the price justified for a typical classroom or a small business meeting room, or does it end up being a luxury you'll never really use? Those are the questions that keep most buyers up at night, especially when the market is flooded with smaller, cheaper touch displays that claim to do the same thing. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through why the Promethean ActivPanel EDLA 65-inch might be the right or wrong choice for you. First off, let's talk about the environment where this thing actually shines. Imagine a high school science lab that needs a surface you can write on, pull up a simulation, and then instantly share the result with the whole class without fiddling with cables. Or picture a corporate training room where the facilitator wants to flip between a PowerPoint deck, a live Google Sheet, and a video call with a remote expert, all without having to swap laptops. The ActivPanel EDLA is built for that kind of fluid, multitasking workflow because it runs Android right out of the box, but it also lets you plug in a Windows or Mac OS computer if you prefer a more traditional desktop setup. That dual-mode flexibility is the biggest practical strength. You're not locked into a single ecosystem, and you can keep existing software investments while still getting the touch-first experience. Now, the same flexibility can be a double-edged sword. The Android OS on the panel is a trimmed-down version that's great for pulling up web apps, streaming educational content, or using the native Promethean software suite. But if you need heavy-duty Windows-only programs like certain CAD tools or niche engineering simulations, you'll have to bring a separate PC into the room and connect it via HDMI or USB-C. That extra hardware requirement adds cost and complexity, and it can defeat the all-in-one promise for some buyers. In short, if you're looking for a pure, self-contained Android workstation, you'll be fine. If your workflow leans heavily on Windows-only apps, you'll need to budget for an extra machine. Another everyday scenario is the collaborative brainstorming session. With the 65-inch screen, you get a canvas big enough for several people to write, draw, and move objects at the same time. The multi-touch capability is responsive enough that a quick sketch of a process flow feels natural, not laggy. In practice, I've seen teachers let students work in pairs on a math problem, each using 2 fingers, and the panel registers their input without missing a beat. That real-world ease of use translates into less time spent troubleshooting and more time actually teaching. For a university lecture hall that wants to turn passive slides into an interactive experience, that interactivity is a genuine value add. However, the same size that makes the screen a collaborative powerhouse can also be a logistical headache. A 65-inch display is roughly the size of a small TV, and it needs a sturdy wall mount or a robust mobile cart. The panel itself is fairly lightweight for its class, but you still need to consider ceiling height, projector placement alternatives, and the fact that the unit draws about 150 watts continuously. In a cramped conference room with low ceilings, you might end up wrestling with the mounting hardware just to get a clear line of sight. So, if your space is limited or you're planning a temporary setup that moves from room to room, the panel's footprint could be a deal-breaker. One of the less obvious strengths is the 3-year on-site support that Promethean bundles in. In many large-scale deployments, think district-wide school rollouts or corporate campuses, having a vendor that will send a technician to your site instead of just shipping a replacement can save days of downtime. That support package is baked into the price, and for institutions that can't afford a long wait for service, it's a solid safety net. Smaller buyers, like a single teacher or a boutique design firm, might not need that level of service and could end up paying for something they'll never fully use. Let's talk about cost for a moment. The ActivPanel EDLA sits in the premium tier of interactive displays. You're paying not just for the 4K UHD panel but also for the brand's software ecosystem, the Android OS integration, and that 3-year support plan. If you're a budget-conscious educator or a startup that can get away with a standard 1080p touchscreen and a laptop, the price premium may feel hard to justify. On the other hand, if your institution already uses Promethean's classroom management tools, the seamless integration could reduce training time and eliminate the need to license separate software. The value, therefore, Comes less from raw pixel count and more from the ecosystem fit and the reduced friction in daily operation. What about daily usability? The panel's touch surface is coated with an anti-glare finish, which is a practical advantage in bright rooms where sunlight or overhead fluorescence can wash out a regular display. I've watched teachers conduct lessons in a sunlit cafeteria without the